You know that feeling when the ground just disappears beneath your feet? Not metaphorically. I mean that actual physical sensation where your stomach drops, your ears start ringing, and suddenly the room you've been standing in your whole life feels completely foreign. That's what I felt when my own father looked me dead in the eyes the night before my brother's engagement party and said 7 words I will never, ever forget. "You are not welcome at that party." Not a suggestion, not a question, a verdict. And the worst part? It wasn't anger in his eyes. It was relief. Like he had been waiting a long time to finally say that to me. I'm Layla. I'm 26 years old, and today I'm going to tell you about the year my family decided I didn't exist anymore, and the day I made absolutely sure they would never forget that I did. Okay, let me take you back, because none of this makes sense without the before. Before the banishment. Before the secrets. Before I found out who my family actually was underneath all those Sunday dinners and holiday photos. Growing up, we were the picture-perfect family. I mean that almost sarcastically now, but back then, I genuinely believed it. My father, Haroon, was a well-respected man in our community. A businessman. Firm handshake, warm smile for everyone who wasn't us. My mother, Sadia, was soft and gentle, and the kind of woman who irons the tablecloth before guests arrive, even if it's just cousins. And then there was Zayn, my brother, 4 years older than me. Golden boy. The son my father built his entire identity around. Zayn got the car at 18. Zayn got the business connections. Zayn got the applause at every family gathering while I sat quietly and smiled and told myself that love just looked different for daughters in our house. I told myself that for 23 years. I was good at convincing myself. I was the quiet one, the studious one. I had a small marketing job, a tiny apartment I was proud of, a best friend named Reem who kept me sane, and a family I showed up for. Every wedding, every Eid, every birthday, without fail, without complaint. Because that's what you do, right? You keep showing up. And then Zayn got engaged to Maha. And everything started to unravel. Maha was sweet, genuinely. She was warm and funny, and she actually talked to me like I was a real person, not just background furniture at a family event. In another life, we could have been close. The engagement was a huge deal. My father had rented out an entire banquet hall. Invitations went to 300 people. My mother had been planning the flower arrangements for 2 months. I was excited for them. Hand on my heart, I was. I had no idea the party was never meant to include me. It started 3 weeks before the engagement. I called my mother to ask about the dress code. Simple question. She went quiet for just a second too long. "Oh, I'll ask your father and let you know." Odd, but okay. I let it go. Then I called again a week later. She said my father was handling the RSVPs and she'd have him call me. He never called. I started to feel something in my chest. That low hum of dread. You know when your gut is telling you something and your brain is still trying to argue? Yeah, that. I texted Zayn directly. "Hey, just want to make sure I have the right time for Saturday." He read it. Left me on red for 18 hours, then replied, "It's complicated. Dad will talk to you." Complicated. Complicated? What is complicated about your own sister coming to your engagement party? I called my father immediately. He didn't pick up. I called 4 times. Nothing. I texted. Nothing. I called my mother and she picked up on the first ring, and she was crying before I even said a word. That's when I knew. That's when I knew it was real. She told me my father would explain. She kept saying, "Just talk to your father, Layla, please, just talk to him." like she was reading from a script someone else had written for her. He finally called me that evening. And I want you to really hear this, because I need you to understand what it feels like to have your own blood speak to you like you are an inconvenience they've been tolerating for decades. He said, and I am quoting him directly, "You're not coming to the party. Your presence will create drama. This is Zane's night, and we are not going to have it disrupted." I asked him what drama. What had I done? When had I ever created a single problem at a family event? He paused, and then he said something that cracked me open from the inside. "You know what you did." I didn't. I genuinely did not know. But he hung up before I could ask. I sat on my apartment floor for probably 2 hours, just on the floor. Not crying yet, just trying to locate the version of reality where that conversation had just happened. Reem came over. She found me still on the floor and sat down right next to me without saying a word. That's the kind of friend she is. Eventually, I started to piece things together. I called a cousin I trusted, Nadia, and I asked her, genuinely, if she had heard anything, if she knew why I was being excluded. She was quiet for a long time, and then she said, "Layla, did you know that Maha's family and your family had a falling out 2 years ago? Something about a business deal? And someone told Maha's father that you were the one who leaked private information about your dad's company to a competitor." I had never, in my life, done anything even close to that. I didn't even know the details of my father's business deals. I wasn't included in those conversations. I was the daughter, remember? I was background furniture. How could I have leaked information I was never given access to? Someone had framed me. Someone in my own family had built a lie. A detailed, specific, convincing lie, and handed it to Maha's family like a gift. And my father, without a single conversation with me, without one question, without the basic decency of hearing my side, he believed it. He chose the engagement over his own daughter. Nadia told me one more thing before we got off the phone. The person who had told Maha's family the story? It was Zane. I didn't sleep that night. I want to be honest with you. My first reaction wasn't revenge. My first reaction was grief. Pure, devastating grief. Because Zane wasn't just my brother. He was the person I defended at every family gathering when relatives whispered about his failures. He was the person I lent money to, twice without telling our parents, because I didn't want him to be embarrassed. He took all of that, and then he burned me to the ground to make his engagement run smoother. By morning, something had shifted. I stopped crying, and I started thinking. Here's what I knew. Maha's family were respectable people. Her father was a businessman who cared deeply about integrity. The only reason they had accepted the lie about me was because they had no reason to doubt it. No one had offered them the truth. I was going to offer them the truth, but carefully, precisely, without a single drop of wasted emotion. I want to be clear. I didn't want to destroy Zane's engagement. Maha didn't deserve that. She was innocent. What I wanted was for the truth to exist in the room. What happened after that was not my responsibility. I spent 2 days gathering everything. I am a marketing professional. Documentation, research, building a narrative from evidence, that is literally my job. I pulled bank records showing the timeline of when this supposed leak had allegedly occurred. I was on a documented work trip in another city that week. I had hotel receipts. I had time-stamped emails. I had a paper trail that made it physically impossible for me to have done what I was accused of. And then I found something else. Going through old messages, because I never delete anything, I found a conversation between me and Zane from 8 months earlier. He had asked me, casually in the middle of a long conversation, about a specific supplier name my father had mentioned at a dinner. At the time, I thought nothing of it. He was family. I told him. He used that one detail to construct the lie. He took my name, attached it to information he had extracted from me without my knowledge, and handed me to Maha's family as the villain. He had planned this. This wasn't a moment of panic or desperation. This was deliberate. He needed a scapegoat to fix a business tension between the families, and he chose me because he knew. He knew. My father would believe him over me every single time. I compiled everything into a folder. Printed copies, digital copies, a clear, calm, factual document that told the real story. And then I did something that I think was the most powerful part of the whole plan. I wrote a letter to Maha's mother. Not her father, her mother. Woman to woman. Not angry, not dramatic, just honest. I introduced myself, acknowledged that she likely had a negative impression of me, and told her I simply wanted the truth to exist somewhere before this wedding went forward. I said she could do with it whatever she felt was right. I dropped it, with the full document folder, at their home address, which Nadia quietly gave me, the morning of the engagement party. The party I wasn't allowed to attend. And then I went home, made tea, and waited. The party was at 7 o'clock. By 9:15, my phone rang. It was my father. I let it ring. It rang again, and again. Then my mother. Then a number I didn't recognize. Then a text from Nadia. Maha's mother stood up in the middle of the hall and asked Zane, in front of everyone, to explain a letter she had received today. Layla, the whole thing has stopped. I sat with that information for a long moment. I won't pretend there wasn't a part of me that felt something sharp and bright in my chest in that moment. Not happiness, not exactly. More like oxygen. Like I had been underwater for days and someone had finally pulled me to the surface. My father showed up at my apartment at 11:30 that night. He looked older than I'd ever seen him. Like the evening had physically aged him. He stood in my doorway. I did not invite him in. And he looked at me and said, "You didn't have to do that." And I said, very quietly, "You didn't have to believe him." He didn't have an answer for that. He tried to explain. He said Maha's family had been threatening to call off the alliance over the business issue, and Zane had come to him weeks ago saying it was my fault, and he, my father, had panicked, had believed it because it was easier, because fixing the engagement was what mattered. I had not mattered. Not in that calculation. I told him I needed him to leave. He asked if we could talk. I told him that I had been trying to talk to him for 26 years and I needed a break from the effort. He left. Zane called 2 days later. I listened to his voicemail exactly once. He said he was sorry, that he panicked, that he never thought it would go this far. He never thought being caught would go this far. I didn't call him back. That was 14 months ago. The engagement did continue, eventually. Maha's family, once presented with the truth, placed the blame where it belonged. There were difficult conversations between everyone involved. Zane admitted under pressure that he had fabricated the story. My father apologized to me. Formally. Properly. Sitting across from me in a restaurant he chose because he knew it was my favorite. The first time he had ever made that kind of gesture for me in my life. I accepted the apology, because carrying that weight was hurting me, not him. But I want to be honest with you about something, because this channel is called Confession Verdict, and you came here for the truth. Accepting an apology doesn't mean things go back. My father and I speak. It's polite. It's careful. It's the relationship you build in the rubble of the one that burned. Zane and I have not spoken since that voicemail. Maha reached out, genuinely, warmly, to tell me she was sorry for ever doubting me. She didn't owe me that, and I told her so. She's actually the one I feel worst for in all of this. She almost built her life on a lie someone else constructed. As for me, I still have my apartment, my job. Reem, who sat on my floor with me that night and never once told me I was overreacting. I have a life that is entirely, completely mine. One no one handed to me, and one no one can take away. And I've learned something I want to leave you with. The most dangerous betrayals are never from strangers. They come from the people who know exactly how much you trust them, who have watched you love them, who have calculated, down to the decimal, how much you will absorb before you fight back. They bank on your silence. Don't give it to them. I'm Layla. Thank you for sitting with me tonight. If this story hit something in you, something you've been carrying quietly, drop it in the comments. You don't have to carry it alone. And if someone in your life has made you feel like you are the problem, make sure the truth has somewhere to land. Subscribe to Confession Verdict for new stories every week. Hit the bell. And remember, every verdict has two sides.